So, welcome everybody. And we are, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. I have too many things open on my screen. So, we are going to be talking about this week's Torah portion, which is Vayeshev. But first, we are going to spend a couple of minutes settling. So I invite you to sit comfortably and just simply breathe naturally. No forcing of anything. Eyes opened, eyes closed, whatever's comfortable right now. Just really getting here so that we can really be present and with each other, creating a really nice, supportive, safe space. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. So in this week's Torah portion, we really begin the whole series of Joseph's stories. And we learn about his dreams, his favoritism, his brother's reactions to the fact that he's the favorite. The parsha ends with a description of his experience in Egypt, at Potiphar's house, and in jail, interpreting James. And between these two sections about Joseph, we learn about Judah and Tamar, which is another interesting little sidebar story. And as you know, I have really been focusing on the midot, the character traits, on the weekly Torah portion. And for me, this week, the midah that really presents itself is anava, or humility. Before our very eyes in this parsha, we see Joseph move from being what I would consider a somewhat bratty little boy, tattling on his brothers, and in my reading, really boastfully telling them his dreams of his ultimate superiority. And at the end, he seems to be much more humble and a man who tells the baker and the cupbearer that God interprets the dreams, that he's merely the messenger. So all of this is illustrated in a few rather pithy lines from the parasha. So I'm going to share these with you. Chapter 37, verse 2 reads, "This is the family history of Jacob. When Joseph was 17 years old, he would tend the flock alongside his brothers." And it goes on explaining who else came and all that stuff. And Joseph would bring malicious reports about them to his father. And verse 4 says, "When his brothers saw that he was the one their father loved more than any of the other brothers, they hated him and could not bear to speak peaceably to him." And then still in chapter 37, verses 5 to 7, Joseph dreamt a dream one time, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Do hear this great dream I dreamt. There we were, tying up sheaves of wheat and in the field, And when my sheaf rose up and stood up straight, your sheaves then paraded in a circle around mine and bowed down to my sheaf. And I could just picture this obnoxious child saying this to his older brothers. However, when we get to chapter 40, verse 5 reads, and where the scene is now in jail in Egypt, they dreamt a dream, the two of them, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were held in prison. Each one's dream falling on the same night, each one's dream with its own meaning. And then in verse 8, so they said to him, we each dreamt a dream, but there is no one to interpret it. Joseph then said to them, surely interpretations are in God's domain, but go ahead and tell them to me. So we see this progression in his thinking, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in a few minutes. Judah also seems to move in the direction of developing humility. So the story with Judah and Tamar is that Tamar's first husband was Judah's eldest son, and he dies. So Judah gives her his next son, as was the custom. He also dies. So Judah then sends her childless to her father's home, promising that she will marry his youngest son when he is an appropriate age. And he doesn't do this. He withholds the youngest son. This, given the mores of the time, was arrogant and put Tamar in a really compromised position in the community. And she ends up taking matters into her own hands, deceives Judah, and he ends up providing her with part of what she wants, a pregnancy that results in twins. Judah is incensed when he learns that his widowed daughter-in-law is pregnant and concludes that she's prostituting herself and states that she should be killed. Tamar's motivation is that she wants to save her position in society by being a married woman and becoming a mother. And Judah, through Tamar's trickery, ends up having intercourse with her, and he didn't know it was her. And he ends up admitting that he was wrong and shows some humility. So in chapter 38, verse 26, Judah recognized them, and that's the collateral that he had left with Tamar, and said, she is more in the right than I, for certainly I did not give her my son Shelah. And he never touched her again. So he does, however, make some movement toward humility, but it's not a complete gesture because he didn't marry her, which is what some people think should have happened. So we'll talk about humility a little bit, just to get a better picture of what it is. According to Alan Morinus, in With Heart in Mind, humility is knowing who you really are and accepting that truth, knowing the precise truth of your own capacities and accomplishments without any hint of inflation or deflation. My understanding of the essence of humility is the instruction to take up one's rightful space, not too much and not too little. And this can be physical space or emotional space, or, like how much we talk in a meeting or any other circumstance. And it is situational. Sometimes it's appropriate to step up, and sometimes it's appropriate to step back. So humility involves our ability to show up as needed in a particular situation. And this requires an ability to discern our true inner wisdom and to listen to our intuition, or that still small voice inside, the kol dama daka, that still small voice. So we can see clearly Joseph's movement from too little humility, which displayed as arrogance and ego vis-a-vis his brothers, and a more humble position as he continues dream interpretation and acknowledges that he is the conduit, not the actual interpreter, that God is. We can also see Judah's self-protective stance regarding Tamar. He thought she was causing the deaths of his two older sons, so he withheld the youngest. But this was arrogant. His admission that Tamar was more right than he shows some humility. And Tamar. See, I think that she shows another aspect of humility. She took matters into her own hand. She knew what she wanted and needed and managed to get most of her needs filled. So she stepped out of convention and took up more space than is expected. So I think that she's the example for me in this of that listening to the cold dema daka, that listening to that still small voice. So we can move into our sit now, and I invite you to adjust your position so that you're sitting or standing in a posture that's really going to work for you, where you're really supported and in contact with the earth, if you will. So it may be the earth through a chair, through a floor, through several floors, but feeling that groundedness. And at the same time, reaching up to the heavens. Our shoulders moving down away from our necks. And tucking the chin just slightly. We want to be fully present. Hineni comes to mind. That ability to really feel that we're here, fully present, able to listen, able to know our inner wisdom, able to hear that still small voice, and make decisions that are appropriate. And so for those of you who like a mantra, I have two suggestions. One is the word Hineni, or I am here. And the other is the phrase Kol Dema Daka, still small voice. So I invite you to begin to deepen your breath. Slowly and gently begin to bring your attention outward. And I'm going to share with you a reading from Marianne Williamson that I suspect many of you are quite familiar with. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.